This first one is a circle, and this is a vertical line. When you have to graph a circle, you want to know the center and the radius to graph the circle. First, we'll find the center. Here, if you don't see any numbers inside parentheses with x or y, that means that the h coordinate is 0 and the k coordinate is also 0. So it's based off of this equation. And because the h and the k were both zeros, they ended up just simplifying it. There are no numbers there in parentheses with them. So that's why we got the h is 0 and the k is 0. And when we graph these, it's the same as saying this is x and this is y. So we know what the center is. Now we need to know what the radius is. The part on the other side, this 16, that lines up with the r squared. The r squared is the radius squared. So you'd set the r squared equal to the 16. And from that, you find the positive square root only. So this means that the radius is 4. This is everything we need to graph a circle. We just needed to know the center and the radius. We'll start here at the origin, which is where 0, 0 is. From here, it's easiest if you just go up, down, left, or right. I'm just going to draw 4 points, one in each of the 4 directions. And then just roughly sketching it, it would look like this. So it kind of looks a little bit more like an ellipse, but it's just a sketch. In reality, it would be the same distance in all 4 of these directions. There. So this would be 0, 4. This would be 4, 0. This is 0, negative 4. And this one is negative 4, 0. And this is 0, 0. That's it for the circle. We can also figure out where to shade it right now, though. If you see that both x squared and y squared are greater than 16, we're going to end up shading on the outside of the circle. So if you want to think about the 16 as being the circumference of the circle, and x squared and y squared are both greater than it, then it's going to be shaded on the outside in every direction. So that's one way you can think about that. Another way is with the test point, where if you can pick 0, 0, this is also the best test point you can pick for a circle. And we can pick it because even though the center is 0, 0, as long as it's not on the circumference of the circle, then that's fine. And the circumference, I've pointed here twice, but that would be anywhere on the actual circle. Now, you put the zeros in both the x and the y. The entire left side will just be removed. It'll be turning into a 0. So this means that 0 is greater than or equal to 16. This is false. And the test point came from inside of the circle, so we know that the inside is the false side. You're not supposed to shade on the inside. You'd be shading this one on the outside. So that's another way you can figure it out. Either you can just look at it and see that x squared and y squared are greater, or you can use the test point. We're going to go ahead and find out about the vertical line now. If you see that it's just x with a number like this is a vertical line. And so you go over to where the 2 is for x. You can also just put this as your first point, but it's a vertical line. So as long as you have 2 points on the same vertical line, it doesn't matter which 2 you pick for this. So if I go up a little bit and pick another point here, that's enough. Now also, this one doesn't have the bar underneath it. This means that this one is a dashed line. we looked at this in the last question, but I automatically made it a solid line because this one does have the bar underneath it. So this one was
Okay.
solid, and this one's dashed. And just to list these are both solid, and these are both dashed.
Can you make a dashed circle by any chance?
Yeah, you can make that. You'll see. There's some interesting graphs where you do have that. And now, let's see. We have the 2 points, and we just need to go ahead and indicate that there's a vertical line here, and it'll be dashed. Now, the next thing is to figure out where to shade this. So here, this is saying x is greater than 2. This line itself is the 2. So if x is greater than it has to be on the right side of the 2. All the numbers greater than 2 on the x-axis, like 3, 4, all the way to infinity. So that's one way to do it. Or you could use the test point method here as well, where you can pick 0, 0, because 0, 0 isn't on the line itself. So then there's only an x coordinate to plug into this inequality. You put the 0 here where the x is, and it's saying that 0 is greater than 2, so this is false. The test point came from this side where we got a false statement. So then if that happens, you have to shade on the opposite side. Any point from this side will give a true statement. The final answer is where you shade both of them at the same time. The previous shading was just a scratch work to see where we would shade in the final part of the question. And based on this, it has to be on the right side of this red line and also outside of the circle. So this is the only place we would shade.